me a yuppie if you like, I've got a mobile phone. Well, this isn't quite it. This is one of the original mobile phones ever seen in Australia. Now, it's a museum piece today, hence the gloves. But the funny thing is that this is my mobile phone. It costs around $1,600, and there are now more than 1 million users right across Australia, which includes families, businessmen, and even these days kids. But the funny thing is that my mobile phone, in just a couple of years, is going to be as much a museum piece as this one. And the reason is a change in technology. Now, the man who's responsible for that change of technology is Ian Slattery, who's the boss of Austel. And he's going to virtually make our $1,600 or $1,000 phones worthless. Now, I'm not too happy about that. I reckon we should give Ian a call and have a bit of a whinge. Let's see how we go.
Ian Slattery speaking.
Yeah, hi Ian, it's Ross Greenwood here. Okay, I know about digital and analogue, I've heard about that. Can you explain it to me in a couple of minutes' time, say down in your foyer?
Sure, Ross, no problem. I'll meet you in the foyer.
Okay, I'm there now. See ya. Hello Ian.
Hello Ross, how are you?
Now listen, before we start, this phone, will you trade it in for me? It's going to be virtually worthless in a couple of years' time. What do you think?
Well, it's not quite that bad, Ross. Why don't we sit down and discuss it?
All right then, because I think a lot of people are going to be very upset because this is an analogue phone and there are digital phones, but analogue phones are virtually going to disappear in a couple of years' time.
Well, perhaps I'll explain to you exactly what's happening. Firstly, the current system is facing some capacity difficulties. In Australia, we're connecting approximately 40,000 customers per month to the network. But what it will mean is that the total number of customers that will ultimately be on the network will not be able to be supported. So what we need is a new network which can provide that extra capacity. And essentially that's what the new digital networks will do. From now until 1996, people will have the choice of connecting their mobile phone to one of the 3 new digital networks or connecting it to the existing analogue network. Now from 1996 through to the year 2000, they'll still have that same choice, except during that period the existing system will be phased out.
After the year 2000, there'll be only one system, digital, and there'll be 3 networks, Telecom, Optus and the newcomer Vodafone, which is big in Britain. So with 1 million people already on the analogue system, which is going to be phased out soon, what should we buy today? Well, according to the boss of the company which sells more mobile phones than anybody else in the country, there's still only one choice. You're going to sell me a digital phone or an analogue phone today?
Well, I would try to sell you an analogue phone because the digital network, it doesn't have coverage, the price of the phones are too expensive, and the size of the phones are too big.
Despite the government's best efforts?
The government has to rethink that policy, and they've got to start rethinking it really soon, because there's 1 million people out there that are going to get pretty upset when they realise that come the year 2000, there might be a few 100,000 people on the digital network, but there's going to be a few million people on the analogue network.
So, what does a digital system do that the current analogue system doesn't do?
As well as providing for extra much-needed capacity, the system will be more secure. People won't be able to listen in on your phone calls. The battery life, for example, will be a lot longer than what it is on existing analogue mobile phone sets. It'll have additional features such as incorporated paging and some various call management features as well.
So you can see the problem. If you buy the traditional analogue phone, its coverage around Australia is about 90%, but the system's going to be phased out soon. If you go for digital, with all its technology, your coverage could be just 60%. Now, on the subject of coverage, one big complaint is that mobile phone calls frequently drop out.
In any mobile network, you can't get an even coverage everywhere because you've got mountains and valleys and it's just too difficult to do. The other reason is that because the system is starting to reach capacity limitations and because so many more people are coming onto the network, people will start to experience service difficulties such as calls dropping out, not being able to get a line when you want to make a call. One of the advantages with the new digital networks is that because they'll have that extra capacity, it'll be able to handle the extra number of customers that come on board.
Well, now you've got your choices, but what about the cost of phones themselves, and how about the cost of those calls?
At the bottom end, we'll see phones at $4.99, $3.99, not much cheaper than that unless they're second-hand phones. I can give you a nice second-hand phone for $200.
Oh, show me one of those. I'd like to have a look at those $200 phones.
Well, this is one of the first phones that was launched on the market. It came out in grey when it first came out in 1987, and this was like $6,000, $5,500 upwards. Today, I'll give this to you for $200.
$200, surely you can do a bit better than that. How about 150? We might be able to do it.
150 is probably still yours. But what we'll see is the difference between this price and this one come closer.
Yeah.
So where this is $14.95 and this is $499, we'll see this one come down, but not this one so much.
Since we've had competition in mobile phone services in Australia, we've seen prices not only for the handsets drop, but also prices for call usage drop. Now what we're expecting is with the 3 new digital networks coming on board, we should see those prices continue to fall. And on a worldwide scale, Australia is probably in the mid-range in terms of pricing.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. Now, you know what it's like when a mobile phone goes off anywhere. It does cause embarrassment, and I must admit, because mobile phones are so new, there's no real etiquette as to when you should or shouldn't use them. But the Telecommunications Ombudsman, Warwick Smith, says you shouldn't use them really in any public place, and that includes a church, obviously. It also includes sporting events, the theatre, any restaurant, of course, also. Now, these days, the technology is improving, so you can get mobile phones and also pagers which will vibrate, and that can certainly alleviate some of the problems with mobile phones going off in public.